So this morning, props-wise, I have a trusty block and I've also got a brick, which I've placed to the front of my mat. I'm going to start here for a few minutes, just settling in, crossing the legs. You can use props or not. Don't be afraid to use the props. They're there as a tool. So think of them as that way, that it's a positive to allow you to get into a better position, more comfortable. So if you are particularly a little bit sticky in the hips in the morning or the spine, props are a super wonderful thing to use. Sit up nice and tall. You're looking for that sweet spot where you can kind of sit with the least amount of effort and energy being used, which generally is upright, just in case you need a clue. And we'll slow the breath down, close the eyes and soften the jaw. Hand position of choice. Mudra or not to mudra? That is the question. Feeling the breath traveling through the lower part of your diaphragm, lifting through your ribs into your collarbones. Gentle expansion of the ribs. Feeling it collapse inwards as you exhale. Rather than a natural breath, consciously taking over, trying to make it as smooth as you can. Open the eyes and just stretch those legs out. The ankles, toes, a little bit of a stretch. I'm going to come down onto my spine. You can use the block behind under the head if you wish. Just roll down gently. Just wriggle out the spine, wiggle the shoulders underneath, bring the heels in towards the center line together, and draw the right knee in towards the body. Let that sit there. Now the left knee, I just want to have that pointing out towards the sky. So you might need to adjust your foot in or out from the center line a little. So the knee points up. We use the hands to draw the knee a little more into the armpit on the right side. Just making a bit more space in the hip. And then you're going to release and switch over to the opposite leg. So again, just as I did before, I'm going to try to consciously view my kneecap of my right leg out of my peripheral vision and have it point up towards the sky. Just using the arms a little, pulling the shoulders back. And then I'm going to release. So bring both feet in towards the bottom. Take the right leg to the sky, coming into a figure four, turn the toes outwards. Bend in the knee, ankle to the outside of the thigh, foot flex. They're going to come up on the tippy toes on that left foot. Draw the left knee, and I'm going to use the strength of my left leg to draw my knees towards me. I'm going to try and use the strength of my right leg to press the knee away. And fairly relaxed around the shoulders. So either the back of the thigh or the shin, whatever's easiest for you to draw into. And then a release from there. Take that leg to the sky. Give it a little shake out. Swap over to the opposite leg. So leg high, turn toes out. Bend the knee as you exhale. Take a breath in. Drop that knee forwards as you come onto the tiptoe. Exhale, right knee in towards the body. Take the hands into position. Use the strength of the legs to work against each other. Release out of that. Shake out the legs. Going to take the right knee in towards the body. Take the hands low down on the back of the thigh and extend the heel towards the sky. So heel is above hip. Draw the hip down, draw your belly down. Lengthen the left leg out down the center line of the mat. Try to work with two straight legs. See if you can get the heel and the calf to make contact. So rather than pressing down through the knee, you're trying to take the whole of your leg down towards the floor. You can almost feel as you press your heel and calf into the floor that you're squeezing your buttock down there as well. Release that foot to the floor. Slide the left heel in and draw the knee high. Put the hands around the back. Lengthen that out. Draw the belly down and the hip down as you press out through that heel. Straighten out the right leg. So a little internal rotation in the thigh if you think the toes are pointing out to the side. You get a chance to spread those toes as well at this time. Two long legs. There. It's a bit like a bingo call. And release the feet back down to the floor. We'll bring both heels back in towards the body and the thighs touching, knees touching, taking the arms out, crucifix style. Drifting the knees over towards the right. Turn the head to the left. Try and relax your lower back, your belly, the shoulders and the hips. Do your best to let that bottom leg sink to the ground. Bring the knees back again. And we'll roll over to the opposite side. I'm going to take my right hand onto the chest, slide that across the left, Press the hands down into the floor and lift myself up. So I come into a seated posture again. I'm going to use the block underneath my bottom. That is a matter of choice. Heels in towards the groin or forwards, crossing the shins. So Sukhasana or Siddhasana. I'll take a little twist here to my left. Turning the body gently around, trying to lower the legs, letting the hips release. Conscious that I'm not leaning out to the side or backwards. Over the rear shoulder, keeping the head level. And then rotating gently to the opposite side. Just moving straight round. Sometimes we hold in the center and kind of let the pose dissipate out of the body, but we've flowed more into it today. We'll come back into the center. Going to take the arms up towards the sky, so breathe in, palms just gently above the shoulders. And then I'm going to let that left hand come down and walk the fingers out until the palm comes flat to the floor. Bend a little into the elbow, go into a side bend, turning the chest towards the sky, keeping the right leg and the shin close to the ground. Lengthen out through that right arm a little bit. Keep the head more in line with the line of the spine rather than dropping the head. And then pressing into the floor to lift back up. Take a little breath. Arms come up high again above the shoulders. Take the right hand out. Walk that out to the side. Palm reaches the floor. Let myself fold. Doesn't have to be as deep on both sides. You might even have a preference in your body to lean one way or the other. Just the freedom in the hips and the lower back and the lower pelvis. And then we'll press into the floor, bring ourselves back up again. As you do, we'll gather the hands in towards the heart. We're going to take the little finger and thumb together, spread the rest of the fingers out. So as you look down, it's like you're looking inside a cup. On the inhale, you're going to draw the hands towards the sky, past the eyes gently, letting the eyes follow. We'll take the hands all the way to the sky and try to look up towards the heel of the hands as you stretch out through the shoulders. Get those arms as straight as you can. Exhaling slowly back down, and we're purposefully going to let the head drop so we can look back in to the heel of the hands. So as we lift up, there is a tilt of the pelvis forwards for balance and a little bit of extension in the spine. And then as we come back on the exhale, tilt the pelvis the opposite way, draw the abdominals in, and let ourselves get a little bit of flexion. And take one more lift. Try and keep those legs from rising. I do want to join in. Hands into the heart. Lift the head. Untangle the legs. Give a little shake out. Swing the feet round, but down onto our bellies. Move the block out to the side. Take some low cobra. So just bring in the hands underneath the shoulders, elbows high. Hands are close into the body. Thighs lengthening away, toes pressing down, bootlaces pressing down. Try and roll the heels out if you can. Make a little more space in the spine. Avoid pulling on the neck. And up. Keeping that bottom rib attached to the floor. It's not a big lift, hence low cobras. the gentle sound of my feet squeaking along the floor. And then I'm going to press into the floor and lift away from the ground. Now I'm going to bring the fingers in towards the front of the mat into a nice tabletop position, tucking the toes underneath, lifting the hips up and back into a down dog. And take a moment just to walk and pedal the legs out a little bit. Again, that is of choice. And allow the shoulders to open up gently, keeping the hands flat to the floor and the fingers pointing forwards. Maybe a little bit out to the side. Maybe a little bit into the inside. It depends a little bit on your shoulders, whatever feels more natural and supportive. Using the abdominal muscles to try and lift the hips up as we shake those tail feathers out. We'll come into a nice steady position and float gently into a plank. I'm going to let the knees come to the floor, untuck the toes, and sit back onto the heels into child's pose. I'm going to press down into the shins as I exhale, rounding the spine. Draw the breath back in as if I'm doing cat-cow, so tilting the tailbone up, and then tucking the toes underneath and lifting into my down dog. We'll come forwards back into the plank. Knees come down to the ground. So notice I'm not trying to bring the knees underneath the hips. I'm just dropping them straight under where they lie. Child's pose, lifted. Inhale forwards. Send the tailbone back up. Come forwards into plank. Knees to the floor. Tuck in. Drawing us round. Lifting up again. Down dog. I'm going to take the right leg into a scissor and then draw the knee in towards the chest. And I'm going to bring myself into a plank, bringing that right knee in towards my nose. I'm going to take it back into the down dog and extend the leg out into the scissor. Drawing the knee back in, into the plank, knee to nose touch, or as close as you can get. Back into the down dog and extend out. One more time, drawing that in. Squeezing through. Rolling that out. To the three-legged dog. And then the foot comes to the floor. We take the opposite leg high, trying to keep the shoulders nice and stable and the hips square to the ground. We'll travel through the plank into our dog. Lengthen out. He comes back in. Then we travel forwards around the spine. Slowly coming back up. Towards the body, we move forwards, little tap, last three-legged scissor, leg comes to the floor, and we'll take the feet out as wide as the mat. We'll turn the heels in a little bit, allow myself to walk the hands back in, so I'm coming into a squat. So it is a wide-legged, I'm sitting down as deep as I can, keeping the fingertips on the floor. Now you can, if you feel like you're in dire risk of catapulting backwards, actually take the mat up, just lift it, bring the hands to the outside edge and grip, and you pull that forwards a little bit. And strangely enough, what it does is it gives you a chance to lower your bottom down a little more and maybe even press the arms and the legs together. That feels kind of cool. Then we'll try and lift the chest as much as we can, belly in. I'm going to lift out of that and let the wrinkle move out of the mat. Bring the hands to the floor and just zigzag the toes in. Gradually bring myself into the forward fold with the feet parallel. Take a couple of breaths here. Letting those ribs and thighs get acquainted. Hamstrings are a bit tight this morning. Hands onto the hips and we'll lift up. Good thing is we're going to start to work on those. So I'm just going to shake that out a little bit. Allow myself to take the hands up towards the sky, above the shoulders, palms facing out. I'm going to soften the knees. So the knees follow the toes, which hopefully are parallel feet. And then sit down into the chair. And breathe. Try and liberate the toes a little bit. So tiny little bit of rocking around from side to side and backwards and forwards. It's kind of like stirring my body very gently. Tiny little movements, you know, it's like maybe 1.5 inches, 2-inch circles, something like that, not very much. And then I'm going to let myself lift back up and shake it all out. So just want to get used to that idea of balancing. I'm going to bring the feet together, toes touch, hands in towards the heart. We're going to take an equal balance. So find the focus point. Allow yourself to soften your knees, bring the thighs together. We'll take the weight into the right leg. Allow the left leg to lift. So take the arms out wide. Now roll the thighs over the top of each other, squeeze them together and see if I can hook the foot around the back of the calf or as close as I can get. I bring the right arm across and the left arm over the top, under the elbows. Bring the palms together and try and sit a little deeper. Keep the belly drawn in. And release the hands out. Let ourselves lift, shake it all out. Hands into the heart again. Focus point, soften the knees. Thighs are still squeezed together as you shift the weight, taking the arms out, lift the right knee, roll the thigh over, hook the foot back as much as we can. Just a little deeper. Left arm, right arm over the top. Elbows bent. And we can lift back out of that. Allow the feet to come apart again. Hip distance apart, hands into the heart. We're going to hinge forwards. Down to the floor. Hold it in. Walk your fingers through to the front of the mat. Then I'm going to come up onto the tiptoes from this down dog position and just take the tiny little steps, a few inches at a time, keeping the feet the same distance apart as they started, straight legs, lifting the hips higher and higher, drawing the belly in, shoulders coming over the wrists. It's a little tight. Feet get flat to the floor. Waddle the rest of the way in. And hands onto the hips, long spine to lift, soft knees. We'll take the hands high, interlace the hands, index finger lifts, and we'll take a simple back bend. So press the feet down and the hips. Actually press back a little bit. Then you can relax the shoulders a little more. Strangely enough, get a little deeper into the bend by doing less. That doesn't happen very often. Hands come back into a center or neutral position. Hands come into the heart. We exhale down to the floor. And take a little breath from there. Allow ourselves to take the right foot to the back of the mat. And drop the heel in and come into warrior two. For a dynamic class, we always bring the hands alongside the body, lifting the torso a little. Taking the right arm forwards until it follows the line of the body and then lifting the whole of our torso up. Squaring the hips. Both feet pressing down, looking for 50-50 weight distribution. Very easy to sink everything into the front leg and kind of let the muscles in the back leg turn off. Shoulders are fairly relaxed down, looking through the middle finger on the front hand. I'll bring the hands in towards the heart, rotate gently, and then bring the hands down to the floor. We're stepping back into our down dog, come forwards into our plank. And as we practiced before, knees to the ground, and we'll sit all the way back onto the heels, head to the floor for child's pose. We're taking an exhale, pressing down through the shins to lift. Inhale the chest, shoulders forwards into that cat shape, moving back into our down dog. We'll take a three-legged dog, scissor with the right leg, knee into the chest, and follow that through for lunge. Come onto the fingertips, dropping the hips a little bit, checking the front ankle under the knee, pressing out through the back leg, feeling the buttocks. Just engage a little bit. And then we'll press into the forward bend, hands up to the hips, and we'll lift up. Same to the second side, hands come high and towards the heart. Slow and low, we come to the floor. We take a breath, left foot back, and drop the heel in. Hands alongside the body. Thumb comes forwards. Again, we're just taking this first warrior two extension a little slower, giving the body time to open in the groins, joints, starting to work out how it feels to hold our body. Hands come on towards the heart. Again, it's a slow rotation, keeping the back foot planted. Fingers come to the floor. We step back into down dog, adjust the feet if you need. We come into a plank. We drop the knees. We sit back. Child's pose. Nice breath here. Using exhale. Rounded spine. Into the cat-cow position. Tucking the toes underneath. Down dog. Left leg, three-legged scissor. Knee into the chest for the lunge. Take a breath. Roll the shoulders back, release the neck. Press off the toes to the forward fold. Hands onto the hips and we lift. Take that high again. And towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. This time we're going to take the right foot back, but we're not dropping the heel in. We're going to take high crescent. So just going to check the balance. Let the hands come alongside the body. And then float the arms forwards in line with the torso. I'm going to draw the belly in and send the tailbone down to lift yourself up. And again, just have a little play around with the feet position. A little time to adjust. And then we're going to dip down. Now we're going to try and come down with the back knee as close to the floor as we can without taking the front knee forwards. And then lifting back up, we're going to try and get into two straight legs, which as you can see, tests your balance a little bit. Don't have to do the impromptu side bends if you don't want to. And then lifting back up. Coming back down. So the placement of the back foot is quite important. If it's too narrow, it's going to get very wobbly. If it's too wide, you're going to get wobbly for a different reason. So there is a Goldilocks place. Can they come down for the last one? Don't think I've got it right this morning. Okay, so coming back up to a straight leg. Into the high crescent. We're going to extend out halfway. Draw the belly in. Press out through the back heel, stretch out through the fingers, keep it nice and strong. Take one more breath. Bring the hands to the floor, step back into our down dog. We'll come into a plank to half planks for up dog. Rolling back gently, down dog. Right leg scissor, knee to chest, to lunge. Take the breath and step it forwards. Hands onto the hips, second side. Inhale up. Might be less talking this time. Exhale down. Take a little breath. Left foot back. Find your sweet spot before you lift. Try and keep the hips square. Allow yourself to take the hands forwards. Strong back leg. Lift up. Check our balance. Back knee bends down. Try to avoid bouncing the knee against the floor in a hard way. You could come, within half an inch and not even touch the ground. That's fine. So these dips are controlled, so that we're working the muscle fibers continuously. There's very little rest, either at the bottom or the top. So that's one reason we don't want to come down and stay down on the knee excessively, because that means the muscles turn off. And we want to keep the oxygen getting pumping around the body. And down one last time. Might have been one extra on that side. Allow ourselves to lengthen. Whew. Over that front thigh. Breath here. Hands to the floor. Step it back into the dog. Come forwards into the plank. Take the half plank. Ribs and elbows meet. Bootlaces down. Strong legs. Down dog. Fully extend. Left leg scissors. Knee comes through. Lunge. Breath in. Push off the toes. Forward bend. Hands onto the hips and we lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. And exhale down. Taking right leg back and dropping the heel in. Dynamic lift to warrior two. Hands in towards the heart. Press the hands forwards. Lean out over the front side. Take a breath. Spin the back heel. Hands to the floor. I'm going to take a scissor with the left leg to the sky into dog. Come into a three-legged plank. Three-legged half plank. Bring the foot down. Take the up dog as you sort the legs out. Coming back into down dog. Take the right knee into the chest. Bring that through for the lunge. Step it forwards for the fold. Hands come onto the hips and then lift. Take it high. Through the heart. Using down. Left leg back. Drop the heel in. Hands alongside the body. Left arm lifts. Into our warrior two. Hands into the heart. Rotate. Press the hands out as if you're pushing a wall away. Hands come to the floor. Step back into the dog. Right leg lifts into scissor. You come through. Three-legged plank. Three-legged half plank. Bootlaces come down. Shoulders lift. Up dog. You come back into down dog. Take a breath. Left knee through for lunge. Step it forward into the fold. Hands onto the hips. Lift. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale down the floor. Half forward fold on the fingertips. Draw the chest, open the legs. Fold it back in, all the way to Uttanasana. Right leg back, drop the heel in. Open up into your warrior two. Take reverse warrior as you arrive. Turn in the palm. Your preference for reference to the warrior two. Hands coming back into the heart. We're going to push away again. Lean out through the front side. Breath in. Hands come to the floor. Stepping back into down dog. This time just straight into plank. Half plank. To up dog. To down dog. Three-legged rise with the right leg. Knee to the chest. Foot through. And back into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips. We lift high. Inhale. Hands into the heart. Exhale down. Half forward fold lift. Fold it in. Over the hips. Left leg back and drop the heel in. Lifting to warrior two. Reverse warrior as we arrive. Back into warrior two. Hands to the heart. Press forwards, leaning out. Hands to the floor. Down dog, vanilla. Half plank as you come forwards to up dog. Down dog. Left leg scissor. Knee to chest for lunge. Take a breath. And step it into the fold. Take a little breath, hands onto the hips. And we'll lift up, hands high, into the heart, and impulse. Close your eyes if you wish. Hopefully the feet are parallel, in line, and you're at the front of the mat. You could take a sip of water if you needed it. We like to try and build some heat. So if you can get used to getting through the hour-long session without a pit stop, that's good. But always work within your own limits. Okay, going to open the eyes. Bring hands in towards the heart. Allow yourself to hinge slowly forwards. And as I come in, I'm just going to bring that brick that I had at the front of my mat to the center line on its highest setting. Take a breath from there, and then take the right foot to the back of the mat for lunge. Drop the heel in. I'm going to take a warrior 2 to lift. And then I'm going to extend its side angle. So I'm going to lengthen out. And I'm going to see if I can bring the brick onto the inside of my thigh, so it feels like it really is underneath my shoulder. And then I'm going to take the top arm up towards the sky to start with, but wrap it around my back and see if I can get my fingers onto the top of the middle thigh area of the bottom leg. So opening the chest up nicely. So pretty easy on that top shoulder. Using a little bit of weight into this bottom hand, whereas normally I would be lifting. Gives me a little bit more chance to work on the back leg and feel the inner thigh starting to lift a little as I focus on pressing that leg down to the floor. I'm going to lift from here into warrior 2 and take reverse warrior. This time I'm going to walk the back hand down the back thigh. The shin if I can. Take a breath, come back into warrior 2. Then I'm going to straighten the front leg, drop the front hip down a little bit so I start to naturally extend out. Then I'm going to follow that through, bring myself into triangle. I'm going to bring the bottom hand underneath, top arm up. This time I'm going to turn the palm to the long side of the mat and try and lift towards 12 o'clock with the hand. Press down to 6 o'clock through the heel of the hand. Press both feet with similar amount of effort through the ball joints of the feet into the floor. Do all that and the belly naturally draws in. Not quite get in there, you can then still draw the belly in. It just happens a different way around. Now I'm going to soften the front knee, bring myself back to warrior 2, float the arms high and bring them onto the inside of this front foot. And just move the block out of the way temporarily so I can move my feet to the long side of the mat so I come into a wide legged forward fold. Now adjust the feet a little bit and then press into the thighs for the inner groin to turn on. Take a breath here. Allow myself to hinge down to the floor. Now I'm trying to allow the elbows to bend so the palms are flat to the ground. And I'm making an effort to draw the shoulders out a little wide away from the ears and avoid that sense of rounding that can sometimes happen in this pose. I'm going to try and keep the chest and the shoulders nice and broad. Pressing down through the feet to avoid feeling an extra overstrain in the outside edge of the ankle. Move away from that. I'm going to lift up halfway, walk the fingers round into my lunge. Take a little breath and step into that forward fold. Now turn the brick on end again. So it's Ready for the second side. Hands onto the hips and let myself lift. Hands come high and towards the heart. Exhale down. Taking the left foot back and dropping the heel in. First lift, warrior two. As I arrive, I sink into the front thigh and extend out. Bring the palm down to 6 o'clock. Remember, I'm wrapping the top arm around and I'm trying to bring my fingers to the top of the thigh, midway down the leg. I'm doing that for a very specific reason. I want to get used to taking the bind quite deep. It does enhance the chances of getting a full reverse bind with the other hand underneath at some time in the future. It allows you to kind of do the prep without taking all the strain. Come back into our warrior two. Turn the palm, reverse warrior, walk the fingers down. Top arm stretches out. Straight through the elbow if you can. Back into the warrior two. Straighten the front leg. Drop the front hip a little. Lengthen out. Come into triangle pose. Just adjust a little look down. Palm flat facing the side. So just check that your wrist of the raised arm isn't holding tension. You're flicking that back. The wrist is relatively relaxed. And you're just lifting the fingers, lifting the shoulder up towards the sky. And feeling that top side of the body starting to lift and engage. And the lighter we feel in the body, the easier it is to open the legs. We'll soften the front knee. Bring ourselves back into warrior two. Float the arms high. Bring the hands down to the floor. Move the block out of the way just so that it doesn't rattle around. Walk the fingers into the long side of the mat and turning the toes just a little inwards. Now I'm going to soften the knees and bring the hands onto the hips and let myself lift up, drawing the shoulders and elbows back. And then I'm going to take the hands behind and just wriggle the shoulders towards the spine a little bit. Draw the ribs down, tuck the tailbone under. If you're able to get the heel of the hand together, great. But for me, my shoulders, it's really a finger interlace is about the best for me. Just a little too tight on the triceps for me to get the heel of the hands together. I'm going to try and keep the spine nice and long as we draw the belly in and hinge over. Now you can take a little softness in the knees. You want to avoid jamming the back. And also notice that the weight comes into the toes and you're shifting around a little bit. As the head starts to drop, the hands can start to come high. Take them towards the ceiling first of all. Try and squeeze the shoulder blades together a little more and get a sense of freedom through the shoulders. And then we'll see if we can let those hands drift a little more over to the long side of the mat. So having to play with the balance in the feet a little bit as well. We're drawing the belly in and sending the tailbone up. Has the same effect as pressing the feet down. This feels a little different. Try to keep the shoulders away from the ears. Let them soften in. One more breath. Bring the hands gently down to the floor as you separate the hands. Lengthen the body out into that neutral position and then walk the fingers around again. Come towards the front of the mat into a lunge. And take a breath. Step into the forward bend. And hook middle finger and index finger around the big toe. And then draw the body forwards, spine long. Head stays in line with the body. Trying to lift the thighs, lift the hips, lift the chest forwards. Last breath in. The hands come to the floor. Just going to move my block out of the way so I don't hit it. Come back into a plank. And then drop the knees directly underneath the hips this time for the first time. Hands are directly underneath the shoulders. And we're going to take a Superman pose. So I'm going to tuck the toes of the right foot underneath and slide the foot back. I'm going to lengthen the left hand out in line with the body. Press down through the left shin to lift the right leg about the height of the hip. And hold that for a few breaths. I'm going to try and press this bottom hand down so you're not sinking into the shoulder, keeping the chest square, hips square to the ground. Still pressing down through the shin. Bring the hands and knee back to the floor. Take a breath. Slide the left foot back. Right arm out. Press down through the right shin to lift left leg. Foot is flexed. Toes pointing down to the floor kind of tells us that the hips are square. The foot is rolling out. Generally, it's because the hips lifted a little bit. You might have to turn the thigh in a little bit with some internal rotation if you have a dominance to spread the feet out wide anyway when you walk. So not an exact science, just suggestions. Last breath. Whew. Legs down to the floor, arms down to the floor. Take a couple of rounds of cat-cow. Just roll the shoulders back a little bit. Let the spine move. So quite a lot of holding through the spine. So a little bit of flex and extension just to bring back the fluidity to the body. And then we'll tuck the toes underneath. Come into a down dog. Just adjust. We're going to take a simple down dog into plank. Then we're going to lift the hips up. Press into the hands and back into that down dog. We'll come forwards again. Could do 5 of these all together, so it's 2. Try to avoid just pressing in hands and the shoulders. Use the hips to lift up. Maybe that's a boy thing, I don't know, but for me, certainly, there's a tendency if I'm feeling lazy, I just do it all in the shoulders. And I forget about the lift. So instigating that first, lifting up, following with the shoulders. Coming back in for the last time, we're going to bring the knees again back right underneath the hips. I'm going to thread the needle by taking the right hand to the sky, inhaling up and folding that through and laying the shoulder or knee down to the floor. Now, providing you get your shoulder easily to the ground and you can press the shoulder into the ground to get a little bit of lift and take some strain out of the neck. If not, you stay in the pose, trying to build on that. If you're comfortable with that suggestion, then you're going to tuck the toes on your left foot underneath and slide the leg out to the back of the mat, and then hook the foot out to the side, trying to get the foot flat to the floor. Allow yourself to take the left hand up towards the sky. So now the shoulders are pretty much stacked 90 degrees from the ground, and the top arm is lifting, and you're still pressing down through the bottom shoulder and a little into the outstretched foot to the side. Remember to breathe. That was a memo to self. Try and keep the shoulders away from the ears. Bring the hands down. Whew. Slide the foot back if you took it. Knee comes to the floor. Use the hands to press down into the floor. Bring ourselves back and take a moment for that to just wring itself out. If you feel like a little impromptu cat-cow thrown in, you can do, or you can just wait and breathe. And back into stillness. We'll take the left hand high, open that up, fold it through and down and under. Whew. Again, just make sure we're happy. So you could even take this slightly differently on each side, depending on how your shoulders are feeling. Make sure you're happy with pressing that shoulder down and releasing the neck a little. And then if it feels good, the right foot tucks under, leg straights back, foot goes out to the side, so it's easy to get the foot pretty much flat to the floor. And then once you feel stable, open up the right hand towards the sky. So a lot of effort pressing down through the shin, through the bottom shoulder, and lifting that top arm up to open the chest. All that effort is taking the weight and strain out of the neck. So if you connect it all up, it feels relatively easy, although it burns a lot of energy and oxygen. That's what we're looking for. Bring the hand back down to the floor, slide the leg back, knee to the ground, press our way back up. Whew. Again, just a little pause in neutral or a round of cat-cow. And then we're going to swing the feet out to the side and just bring that block underneath. So we come into Dandasana. Feet out in front. Sitting up nice and tall, we can roll the shoulders back, squeeze the thighs together, flex the feet. From here, we'll take a breath. On the exhale, we're going to bring the right heel into the groin, keeping the foot flexed, so toes forwards and dropping the knee down to the ground. If it doesn't reach the floor, use the block or the brick rather to pad. Square the hips again towards the front of the mat. Keep this knee pressing down out to the side as you bend the left knee a little bit with the foot flexed. We'll take a lift into the spine. We'll hinge over first. And then today we're going to let the spine round gently in as a second phase. So as long as you let the hips release as deep as they can, then it gradually, using the exhale to bring the rest of the body in. And head comes down last. So quite often we see students who are clearly head first, spine second, and hips last. And you can kind of see the shaking and trembling and the tension in the body when you go that way. Come hips, spine, head. It all kind of just floats down and rests. And it doesn't look a whole lot of difference in terms of approach. But the texture that you see in people's bodies, ease of breath, big difference. We'll use the hands to the floor to press back up. Take it to the second side, so the feet come out again. We sit up nice and tall. Hook the heel in. Remember the foot is pointing, toes forwards. We square the hips to adjust. Little bend in the knee. Take the height. Hinge at the hips. You'll feel the pressure in the leg building. You'll feel the weight coming into the heel. Your spine comes down. And then gradually let the head come in as well. Belly drawn in a little bit. Try and keep the chest square to the ground in the pose. By that means the shoulders feel like they're the same distance on either side to the ground. Feel that one shoulder is high or low. Well, either you've got some tension there or you've twisted a little bit. So we're trying to avoid. Use the hands again to press into the ground to lift back up. We'll take the feet out. I'm going to use the block again underneath the back of my head in preparation for Shavasana. Feet wide, chin towards the chest as I roll the spine down. And take the arms out wide first of all. And then walk the feet back in towards the hips. Right on the center line. Going to take the little stretch with the legs over to the right, and I'm going to let the right hand come on top of those thighs. So the body's warmed up quite a bit. You might be able to get a little deeper into this twist versus the one that we did at the very beginning of the class. But just as we did before, we're trying to slow the breath down, relax the shoulders and hips and legs. And we'll lift the legs back slowly as we inhale. Take the arms out, realign if we need. Also to float down the opposite side. Conscious effort to roll the shoulders underneath. Once we've arrived, bring the legs back up. And let the hands come to within about the length of a ruler from the side of the body. Palms facing up. Shoulders round underneath. Slide the heels out to the corner edges of the leg from that. And then allow yourself to wiggle out through the hips. Get that lower spine to feel like it sinks into the floor. Arrange the pelvis. And then let the legs roll out finally. So close your eyes and soften your jaw. This time allow yourself to let the breath be completely natural. Listen to your breath, feel your heart, sense your body slowing down. Begin to breathe a little deeper and wiggle the fingers and the toes. Allow the wrists and the ankles to begin to move, just reconnecting the body. Turn the lights back on a little. Take a breath and let yourself have a lovely stretch out. We'll slide a heel at a time along the floor. So that we can gather the knees in towards the body. The simplest of hugs, rocking around on the spine or stirring the hips, whatever feels good, or maybe a little bit of everything. And then on an exhale, we're going to roll onto the right side, keeping the knees in towards the body. And turn the chest down to the floor as you take the breath in, and then use the hands to press into the floor to guide back up to sitting. And bring yourself into a comfy posture, an easy sitting pose for you. And then we'll bring the hands in towards the heart as we take a breath in, closing the eyes. And slowly exhale that breath, letting the chin drop, drawing the belly to the spine, letting the bow form in the spine, sealing our practice. And inhale, lift the spine with the breath. Now head to lift, eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the mat again soon.